This is Charlie Flowe here, World Sports Show. I'm joined with Sky Blue SC head coach Freya Coombe. I want to thank you, Freya, for taking the time out of your day and life to join me out here on World Sports Show.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
So, just want fans out there, players out there, people in the general public, just to get to know you a little bit better as a coach. Let's start how you started as a coach. Where did you first begin coaching, and how did you get into coaching?
Yeah, so I was at university when I started to coach, really. So I was studying sports studies at Staffordshire University in Stoke-on-Trent. And as part of my course, we were encouraged to go and take a coaching qualification. And being a football or a soccer lover, it was natural that I wanted to go and do my coaching qualification in soccer. So I started to go and help out at Port Vale Football Club whilst I was at university, and did some coaching in the community for them alongside getting my license. And then it just snowballed from there. I started to do more and more in the community for Port Vale and just really, really enjoyed it. So began there, starting up a women's team, being a player coach for their first women's team that they had, and it just kept going. It was fantastic.
What is that dynamic like about being a player coach? That I'm sure there's a lot of decisions you have to make that may involve you playing or not playing.
Yeah, so it was kind of strange to get the team off the ground. It was more at that stage with Port Vale, it was more me inviting all my college football team to come and play, and my friends that played as well. I was like, look, we need to create a team here. We've got a few players, but we need a few more. So guys, come on. So that was quite good. And it was more of like a social team and getting together. But we were good. We won the league and the cup our first year. So we had a bunch of ringers, which was nice because we had to start in the bottom league. So that was a really good year. So there wasn't any sort of real team selection issues or any real issues that I kind of had to deal with or navigate. So that was a good experience. But I actually did the same thing at Reading in the reserve team at the end of my career. I was coaching and still playing before I got injured and had to stop playing. So that was interesting. I had a really good assistant, a guy called Kieran. We worked closely together. So, I was on the field at the time, and it worked quite well because I could give him my feedback on how the pace of the game was going and different things I noticed. But then having him there on the sideline, it worked really well. So we'd discuss things before and after the game, at half time, for example, as well. And we're able to navigate through and be fairly competitive, which was great.
Yeah, you just mentioned Kieran, the coach that you worked with. What are some of the other coaches you've worked with throughout your career, to get you where you are as a youth player, a beginning professional, even a professional now, some of the coaches you've looked up to and helped you along the way?
Yeah, a key one for me was probably Lee Heron at Reading, working with him, and then Kelly Chambers at Reading, because I was there for so long. And just watching what Lee did, taking Reading's team from, starting them up as a women's team under Reading's club, and then bringing them through the leagues. So that was great to see how he managed the players and went about recruiting and created the environment and just brought that extra professional dynamic to it. And then working with Kelly in the first half in the Centre of Excellence with Reading. And then as she took over the women's team from Lee, it was interesting to kind of see her work, and then working with Jane Ludlow when she came in and did her stint with the club. So that was really, really good to sort of learn from those guys, just more around managing people, managing the environment. And then since moving over to the States, it's been good working with John Curtis at Everton America. So working with him was really good, just, navigating more the American landscape, I think, when I was a fresh-faced coach coming over and not really worked in the US before. And then working closely with the academy coach, Christian Gonzalez at New York Soccer Club. I learned a lot from him just in terms of game model and practices with putting together a playing style, playing philosophy, and just general standards of coaching and within the session. So I'd say that those are probably the biggest influences on my coaching journey right now. And since joining Sky Blue, and Marsha McDermott obviously is our technical advisor that we're working with. It's just been great working with her when she's got so much experience of working at the elite level, winning championships herself, working with a national team, and then helping navigate me through the college draft, which was a completely foreign concept for me, but one that was really, really enjoyable. But it was great to have her kind of guidance and just the process of it all, and the whole scouting piece before the draft.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the whole college system and the draft and the different terminology, it's something that I, as an American, sometimes have to get used to when we have these things like Sky Blue, and then my women's team Lone Star, when we have tryouts. Foreign players aren't used to that term tryout. They're used to the term trialist. They think, well, can I come over for a month? And it's a concept we all have to learn and adapt to. That a tryout may be 2 days long, and players think, what do you mean 2 days? I got 2 days to make two days to make this team. So I'm sure that's an adjustment for you, just explaining that terminology to international players.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure, and it's hard at the moment when we're obviously a week into our pre-season and we've got people on trial coming in, and then we've obviously had to shut down. So that's a hard one to navigate as well, where they've come in for a little bit and then they've had to go away again, and then they'll come in however long this break lasts, and they're coming back in to continue their tryout. But it's a hard time for people.
Yeah. So the transition you've made, you've stayed along with the coaching, in England. Now you come over to the United States. What led you to make that move over here to the U.S.?
So it was something I'd always wanted to do, is coach full time. The time when I was working with Reading, I was working as a lecturer at a university as well. So, I would do that Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and then I'd coach with Reading in the evenings and spend my Saturdays and Sundays either coaching, playing, or a mixture of both. So it was fairly busy, and I knew I wanted to make that transition, I think, to coach full time, and at the same time I wanted to live abroad and have a different adventure. And the US seemed like the great place to go in terms of professional sports. It's probably the best country in the world for that. For women's soccer, it's such a strong soccer nation, and then also it's an English speaking country. I'm not great with languages, so I didn't want to pick up a new language and move somewhere completely different. So it seemed like a natural fit. So it was a move I'd had my eye on for a while, but just hadn't really taken that step. And then my mum got a little bit sick. She was quite poorly, in intensive care. So I ended up quitting my jobs to kind of spend a bit of time with her, but at the same time a job offer came up, so she recovered quickly, which was good, and I was able to make the move, kind of ditched her a little bit and came over to America. But she's doing great now, so it was worth it. She's happy to see my progress.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting part of whatever situation we are in as coaches, whatever's going on in the outside world, that technology has helped us bridge a lot of gaps just as being coaches. The online content, the way we can stay connected with families, the way you and I are doing this interview. Used to doing everything in person. That's just the coaching model is now helping us with the online platforms. And I mean, I'm sure it's interesting just for you, coming over here working in the United States, just seeing the growth in the women's game throughout the world, and just in England, how it's becoming. England is now a world power in the women's game.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the growth of the game. So as I mentioned, I was, part-time, and there wasn't really the professional, full-time professional players as when I left England. It was just turning that way. There was a few professional clubs, but, now to see how, fully pro they've gone, the funding that they've got, the great job that the FA's done with like the structuring of the women's professional game, and then also the way the clubs have responded in adopting women's teams and the parity for some clubs, and how much they're providing. I know Reading are doing a great job with the amount of resources they put behind the women's team, and how for a long time they've been promoting the women's game in Reading. So I've been really impressed with clubs in that way, and how much they're getting behind and supporting their team. And it's really showing with being a community club.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of good things come out of a lot of countries, and a lot of the infrastructure is there. I think that the thing in the United States, we're still partly in some of the early stages of developing the women and men's game in general, because of facilities that just have to be shared and aren't soccer/football specific. But that leads me to your vision with Sky Blue. I mean, you guys had a great relationship with Red Bull. You had to play in their arena last year. You're going to be able to use their facilities. I mean, that's a huge boost to you guys as a club, just being able to have those professional facilities.
Yeah, absolutely. A big thing that we've been focusing this year is raising the standard. And I think, that's the vision of Elise and Tammy is, making sure that everything is the environment we've created has been raised upon previous years, and they've done a great job of doing that. And it's very much within that vision. But it's for us now, it's holding the players to a standard as well as holding the coaching staff and everyone involved. And the facility is a huge part of that. Is can we provide that top level standard, and then everyone else is accountable for the standards within the club.
No, it's great. I mean, the things that you guys did last year, you joining the club, later in the season, what has that experience been like, just as a coach, being able to coach in the NWSL and the highest, women's league in the world?
It was fantastic, and it was really unexpected, to be honest. So I came into Sky Blue on the premise of observing a session and just watching the coaches work and just being around the game. And with my experience at Reading, it was great, and it was something that I knew that I wanted to get back working at the top level with top level players. So I kind of came in just to see what they were doing and how the game has changed and how the game's different over here. And it was just, the timing was absolutely perfect for me and my development, because it was a time when Sky Blue didn't have a lot of coaches. They just released some of their coaching staff, and there was a real shortage of coaches on the field with the players. So I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to help out with the session, just helping serve balls in the first session. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, would you want to run this practice and this drill while we work over here? And it was like, yeah, of course. And that just kept going, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to deliver a session, and then it was go to a game and be part of that. So it was given more and more responsibility as the time went on. But that was really great for me to kind of get that experience and that exposure over a period of time before just coming in and starting afresh with a team. So you could kind of get to see the elements that I really liked about the way things were being run, and there were some really good strong elements to it, and then bits I might change that, I might tinker with this little piece. So it was kind of nice. It was almost like a little dry run before this season starts. So really enjoyed the team and working with the players, and I knew it was a place I wanted to be. It's great leadership, great players, great environment despite everything that the players had been through. And it was a place I knew I wanted to stay at and to continue with.
No, I want to thank you again for joining me and taking time out for you to come on World Sports Show. I appreciate everything you guys are doing in the women's game, everything you're doing to just help grow the game here in the United States. And just thank you again for joining me. We definitely touch base again. We'll sum up what you're doing, what your vision is, and keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you for watching a World Sports Show production. For more info, go to worldsportsshow.com. Thank you for watching a World Sports Show production. For more info, go to worldsportsshow.com.